Hello, welcome to another session on using the new Blender for video editing. Today we're going to talk about proxies again, because proxies have changed in the new version of Blender, and right now we are at version 2.93.1. So let's get started. And now the first thing I want to show you is that proxies are enabled by default. So if I click over here and go down to View, you can see there it is. The check mark for Use Proxies is already set, and the Proxy Render Size is set to 100%. Alright, so in addition to proxies already being enabled in the preview, proxies now will also get created automatically when you import them to your Blender project. So let's see that in action. I'm going to go to Add, Movie, and I will go into this folder and select this file. Click Add Movie, Strip, and then what we'll see here is now already we have this message down here, building proxies. Behind the scenes it is building out a proxy for us to use, and it's going to be the one for the 100% size of the source video. And what we saw in our previous video about proxies is that by default the proxies will be created in a subfolder called BL Proxy. So within this subfolder there will be one folder for each of the individual files that you've been bringing into Blender. And you can see right there, there is the proxy file that is currently being created. It's an AVI file. It's a very old format. Right now, if I try to play, it won't play very well at all. You can see down over here, the frame rate is supposed to be 25 frames per second, but I'm only getting about 7 frames per second. Once the proxy has completed building, we can play it again and we'll see it'll be a little bit better, but still not that great because my computer cannot handle working at that resolution. So we will create another one after that. So I'm going to skip to when the proxy is done and then we'll continue from there. Okay, so Blender has finished creating the 100% proxy. So let's restart from the beginning and hit the play button and see. Okay, so the first little bit was good, but now you can see sometimes it plays well, but it's still better than before. Now watch what happens here. If I go to the Proxy Render Size for the view settings of the preview, and if I change it to 25%, which is what I would normally use when I do my most of my editing, as soon as I hit that button, once again, Blender starts building the proxy. And it's actually going a lot faster this time, I suppose because it's a 25% compared to the original 4K size. I'll let it complete. We'll come back to this when it's done. Okay, so it's nearing completion now. So let's just jump back to the start and hit the play button. And there you go. So now FPS is showing the full 25 frames per second for this video source, this movie file that we have. And of course, now we're free to switch between them as we want. So if I hit the play button now, we're getting our 25 frames per second. If I switch this over to the 100, then as expected, it's not going to be nearly as good, but still better than if I went back to original scene size. So with this one, it uses the raw file, and the results in this case not too bad right now, but it can be quite slow if you use the original file without going through proxies. Another thing I want to share with you is something that I just learned. I didn't realize it could be done. Maybe it was possible to do this even before this latest version of Blender, but I just figured it out and I'm very excited because I think it's going to really speed up my work. So hopefully this will also be very useful to you. To show you that, let me switch over to an example file, that project that I've prepared. Okay, so here we are in my demo Blender project to show you that you can switch between workspaces or screen layouts that have different proxy settings, and you can do it very easily, which means that for the most part when you're editing, you can use whatever proxy you want. Like for me, for example, I tend to work with 25% because That way I can get the most out of this hardware that I have. But then at the 25% level, it gets kind of difficult. Like when I need to highlight an item on the screen, like circling an area that you have to click on, it's hard to see at 25%. So let me show you. I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit to here. Okay, so in this case right here, this strip right here is what I'm using to get that red ring around that menu. If I zoom it in with a box zoom here, you can see it's really hard to tell what that is. It doesn't matter how zoomed in I get, it's really difficult to see. So what I used to do is I would go over here into the view settings and change that to scene size, and then wait a few seconds and then see, oh, okay, there we go. That is add, that's what I want. I would adjust the X and Y positions, and then so that I could go back to the rest of my editing, I would have to switch back because this is actually a little bit too slow. If I play it right now, you'll see it's showing about 9 frames per second, whereas the scene is supposed to be running at 30 frames per second. So compare that to switching that back to 25%. If I jump back to about here and I hit the play button, you see I get 30 frames per second almost all the time. So of course I want to be using proxies, but switching between 25% and the raw file, it's very awkward. But you can simplify it by having 2 versions of your video editing workspace or screen layout, one that uses proxies and one that does not. So that's what I have up here. And I don't even need to pause this now because you can flip between them freely. So here is my normal video editing workspace with the 25%. Here I've got an exact copy of it, except the only thing I changed was I set the proxy render size to scene size. So everything is still the same. And when you switch workspaces, Blender still has the same strips selected. So I could have this strip selected while I'm in my 25% version of the workspace, make some tweaks there, and then quickly flip over to my no proxy version just to verify or do some fine tuning. To make things even more convenient, there are hotkeys associated with that. So instead of taking the time to move my mouse over here to click on the workspace I want to use, you can also hold down on the control key and press page up or page down. So just like that, I can switch between these, and it's going to make life so much easier for me working with Blender. So that's it. That's all I had for this one. If you did like this, please do give it a like and subscribe so you can see more content when it comes. Thanks, and bye now.